Okay, everybody, welcome to Scranton City Council's Tuesday, March 9th, 2021 caucus. We're going to get started now. I want to introduce Leslie Collins, a friend of ours who comes once a quarter and gives us an update on the activities and progress, great progress that Scranton Tomorrow is making. So, Leslie, I will turn it over to you and you can take the floor and fill us in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you since before the holidays, so nice to see you for the start of the year. As always, thanks so much for having me. This is a great opportunity for Scranton Tomorrow, always for us to, explain to you what we're doing. And it's great for transparency's sake. And certainly if you have any questions along the way, please just feel free to ask. So tonight I would like to touch upon 5 different points, starting with organizational structure, our community partners, economic development updates, some business development updates, and our Safe, Clean, Green, and Design initiatives. So since the beginning of the year, the Scranton Tomorrow Board of Directors has invited 4 honorary board members to take part in our monthly board meetings. And those include the majority commissioner of Lackawanna County, the mayor of Scranton, the president of Scranton City Council, and the president of the Scranton School Board. All 4 of these positions are, as I said, honorary. They are non-voting members of the board. But we feel that it is also a great opportunity for partnership and for information exchange and for transparency's sake. So we are excited to bring those members onto the board, and they will serve in those positions, or a designee, an official designee of their choice may serve on the board, and their term will continue until the end of their elected term. As far as partnerships, Scranton Tomorrow, I know I say this all the time, but it is so true. Scranton Tomorrow is built on partnerships. So even during COVID, we've continued to make sure that we build those, sustainable partnerships. And as you know, at the beginning of COVID, we did start the Electric City Connection Project. We were a partner that was brought in through the University of Scranton and Friends of the Poor. We recently kicked off our 3rd round of the Electric City Connection, and to date, our numbers are looking about that we have raised approximately $70,000 for those individuals within our community who are in greatest need, as well as injecting those dollars, $70,000, right back into our local small business restaurant community. The program is still ongoing, so I would encourage our community members to continue to donate. It's a $15 donation, so you can imagine a lot of donations have come in since the start of the Electric City Connection. We also have the Scranton Area Community Foundation, who is a great community partner. They provided us with a $20,000 grant to help support the program, so we are very appreciative of that. We also have been working with Lackawanna College on their Rally for Restaurants, and the City of Scranton is also a partner in that program. Recently, they rebooted their Rally for Restaurants within the last month, and that program will be continuing right into the summer months, which is great. Their program is all about, once again, assisting the restaurants. They utilize local restaurant chefs who come in and teach the culinary students at 409 Adams, which is a culinary institute at Lackawanna College. They teach the students the preparation of a meal, and then the public can make reservations and actually enjoy the meal that is prepared by the students, but supporting their favorite restaurants. So this program will continue in their reboot into the summer, and we have brought in Friends of the Poor, the University of Scranton, and Scranton Tomorrow into the fold of Rally for Restaurants in a little bit of a different manner. So when the patron is finished with their meal, at Rally for Restaurants, they will have the opportunity then to offer a $15 donation or more, but a minimum of $15 to help support the Electric City Connection. So not only are they supporting the restaurant of that evening, but they're also supporting an individual or a family based on their donation for the Electric City Connection. So it's a win-win all the way around. So once again, great partnership with the City of Scranton, the University of Scranton, Lackawanna College, Friends of the Poor, and Scranton Tomorrow. So really that private-public relationship continues to grow. So we're really proud to be part of both of those programs. Also, our Safe, Clean, and Green program is, as always, doing exceptionally well, even though they were shut down during the winter or during the pandemic. Throughout the shutdown, they have made great strides within the business community in the downtown. Most recently, our team leader, Steve Ward, has been conducting assessments within the downtown, and those assessments include safety concerns, green landscaping, lighting, a number of areas throughout the downtown. And right now is a great time for us at the beginning of the year to reassess those items. And he has been sharing his assessments with the local police department, with DPW. So once again, it's a great opportunity for the ambassador program to provide services that are above and beyond what municipal government would be doing for those assessments. But yet I have to recognize the fact that the municipal departments that Steve has been working with are really wonderful. They have been very responsive to any kind of concern that Steve has brought to their attention, and they have been great partners in making sure that the downtown is safe, clean, and green. So we are very thankful for that. We are also extremely excited to launch the Scranton Tomorrow mural program. I think I mentioned at the end of the year for 2020 that we were excited about bringing Rose Randazzo, who formulated the mural arts program in Pittston, was very successful. It serves as not only a tourism initiative, but also an economic driver. We're very excited. We have been working with local property owners, artists, and working with different departments in the governmental bodies, as well as working with the HARB. And we anticipate having our first mural contract signed by June, and hopefully that mural will be up by the end of the summer. So it's a very exciting project. We're working with funding partners currently, and I will keep you posted as we move forward with that and have things signed. I'm hoping that by my next quarterly report that things will be, well on their way for our first initial mural. But we have been pulling in local artists so that they understand that the program is all about a comprehensive plan for murals for the downtown business district. And what that would include is specifically historic preservation elements. So it's very important that murals are mural artists are presenting their plans and property owners to the HARB. And so that we abide by historic preservations. As we know, we have an extremely historic downtown. And so we're excited about the historic preservation and most importantly about the sustainability, so that other artists that are performing murals throughout the city may also come into the fold of the Scranton Tomorrow program. We will help them with applications for HARB and for sustainability purposes and work on longevity so that their artwork is preserved in our history and that it does not become blight within a 10-year period, because none of us want to see that happen. When someone is putting their heart and soul into their work, we want to make sure that it's preserved. And this program has all of the elements to make sure that we can preserve artists' work. So we're very excited to launch that program. Our economic development team continues to work diligently on the Pocket Park. Some updates, I think since last time I met with you, we are now looking at a construction date of August 2021. So that date has been unfortunately creeping backwards for some time, but we are all between the city, Scranton tomorrow, the county, DEP, and AMO, which is the firm who is doing the remediation. We all feel pretty confident that that is our date. And obviously COVID has put us back many, many months, and we're just tying some loose ends up with DEP and then should be ready. So I will keep you informed on that as well. And our business development initiatives continue to move forward. I'm excited to report that we are seeing some new business growth within the downtown business district. We have small businesses. I think we have 4 currently that are opening up, 2 that have opened up and a few that are opening up in the very near future. I will keep you updated on those as well. And we're excited to welcome these new small business owners to the downtown. We have a very supportive, friendly, and non-competitive business community. And I think that's what really makes our downtown district so different from other business districts, is that they are all rowing in the same direction to make sure that everyone is sustainable and can continue in business. Now, saying that we have a number of new businesses does not eliminate the fact that we have many businesses who continue to struggle greatly, whether it's pivoting in this new direction since COVID, or if it's staffing, COVID regulation, whatever it may be. We have seen it across the board. So we are here to make sure that we are supporting our small businesses in whatever manner we can, and we will continue to do that as long as we need to. So we are here to help support and advocate for them. Most recently, we are working with the University of Scranton. They reached out to a number of nonprofits who are working within neighborhood and business districts and neighborhood commercial districts. So Scranton Tomorrow is included in that. And they are students from their community-based learning center. And they have a project which is gathering data from the small business community and updating our databases for us. So in 2009, we worked with the University of Scranton, and they actually helped us develop our initial database for the downtown business district, which is a huge lift. So they have these amazing group of kids that are very engaged, want to learn about the business community, want to be part of the business community and the neighborhood fabric. They're doing a wonderful job of outreach. In 2009, they were able to really be on the streets and in person. It's a little more difficult due to COVID, where they're doing this work remotely. So we are encouraging our small businesses to make sure that they do answer the phone call when the students call, and if they could provide the information that the students are asking. And it's limited information. There is no personal information being asked. They will not be asking for any tax ID numbers, any bank accounts, nothing like that. It is information that would be in our database to make sure that we have them so we can contact them and get them the information that they need. It also is to help identify any significant challenges that they may be encountering due to COVID, so that as we, at the nonprofit community that's involved, collectively, as we are working on our plans of work moving forward, this information will allow us to change our strategy based on their responses. So it is important that they're honest and let us know what their challenges are and what their needs are, if in fact, there is opportunity for us to address those specific needs as well. So that is pretty much the report for the quarter. I picked the things that I thought were really the highlight and most important things that we've done throughout the quarter. Obviously, there's many other things that are taking place with all of our volunteer committees. I should mention one other thing, and I have the dates right here. Our Safe Clean and Green Committee is looking for volunteers. We have not been soliciting volunteerism throughout COVID. However, we will be looking for volunteers for a downtown cleanup on Sunday, March 28th from noon until 2 p.m. We also will be looking for some volunteers to help plant the 100 planters in the downtown. And that will take place through the entire week of April 5th. And it is based on the most convenient time for a volunteer. We will work around our volunteers. We will be staggering the times that people will be on the street. We will have them staggered for social distancing purposes, and we will require that everyone abides by the CDC guidelines. But if anyone is interested in volunteering, you could reach out to Steve Ward, our ambassador leader. His email is steve@scrantontomorrow.org. And that is the report. Any questions?
Thank you, Leslie.
Sure.
I don't have any questions, just as I, think you guys do a really, really nice job
Thank
for
you.
our city. And from, when I first got on council 7 years ago, I feel like so much progress has been made. And your group is always at the forefront. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Leslie?
I don't have a question. I just want, Leslie, first of all, thank you very much. You guys do fantastic work. It's always great to get updates from you. I'm thrilled to hear that Rally for Restaurants is going to continue through the summer. Not only does it help our area restaurants, but it brings great educational value to the students.
Right.
I'm also very happy to hear about the community-based projects with the University of Scranton also. So thank you. Keep up the great work and look forward to hearing more updates.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So thank you for the update. I think you ran it down pretty good. When it comes to, say, I know you put out that email, but when it comes to, say, artists for the mural projects, do you want to put out the contact information for that if anybody needs to contact you, or?
So they could contact Steve as well. And Rose does have a Scranton Tomorrow email. I believe it's rose@scrantontomorrow.org, but it may be Rose Randazzo. I'm not sure. So they're probably best to reach out to Steve Ward.
Okay, and that would be the best route to take any of those?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Leslie, are you handing off the baton soon as the president of Scranton Tomorrow?
So I am now the president and CEO. I was formerly the executive director, and Michael Gilmartin is now, rather than president of the board, he is now chairman. So we did go through, yes, we went through some organizational changes. That's a really great question, because we did not actually talk about that as an organizational internal structural item, but yes. So I have now become president and CEO, and will remain in this position, hopefully, as long as I can. And our president is our chairperson is a 2-year term.
Okay, because I saw Michael had that title, and I thought that might have meant that you were moving on or something. So that's good news for everybody.
No, thank you for the clarification, though. That's a great question.
Leslie, I can tell you that I'm in contact with Rose Randazzo. She actually we exchanged correspondence actually today on the murals program. So.
Oh, wonderful. Perfect. Thank you for doing that.
Very good.
Great.
All right, Leslie, thank you so much. Hope you have a
Thank
good night, and we'll see you during our next update. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Leslie.
Okay. So we have Tom McLean here. Tom, we have about 25 minutes left in our caucus. I don't know if Tom wants to go over Tom's here to go over the park study. Tom, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
How's it going?
Not bad, not bad.
That's good.
So I'm a little bit in the dark about when do you want me to make a presentation? You want me to go through it now, or you want me to go through it in your public meeting, or?
Yeah, you could go through it now in our caucus. That'd be great.
Okay. All right.
We can't see you. I don't know if your camera.
Yeah, I don't know why that. Oh, I know why that is. Ugh, I have my anti-hacking.
Oh, there you are. Okay. You said
screen
we're in
on.
the dark. I thought you really meant that, because it was dark.
I did. I'll give you 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, now you can see it. All right.
And just so everybody knows, Tom is, and his company is responsible for performing the parks assessment, which is a huge benefit to the city. So an RFP was put out, I think a few months ago, right, Tom? Or maybe last year.
It was, yeah, it was, I think it was 19. Going
19,
into 20.
2019, yeah. So it was a little while ago. And so their firm got the contract and they've been doing a great job. And Tom's here to give us an update. So I'll give the floor to you, Tom.
Thank you, Bill. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see that?
Not yet. Yep, there you go. We can see it.
Okay, give us 1 second here. Let me get this thing. Give me a, there we go. All right, so you guys are good, you can see.
Yep.
Good. Okay, so basically, we were hired by the city to do a citywide park study, submitted an RFP, which was accepted. We're given authorization to proceed. We set these goals up front, just a general strategy on what we're trying to achieve. So get a clear vision for each park. We're going out to each park. We visited each park already. It's kind of funny. Oh, wait a minute. Where are we going? Okay, let me slow down here. One thing at a time. We wanted to find a clear vision for each park. We want to undertake public participation for each park as part of the planning process. We want to get the residents involved, neighbors, interested people, interested businesses, stakeholders. We want to recommend necessary improvements to bring the park in compliance with ADA. And we want to develop a master plan for each park that illustrates proposed improvements and enhancements. Define the future uses for each park, and also try and get some innovative program going. When I'm old enough that when I grew up in the city, we had lots of programming through the school district in every city park. I don't know if those days will ever return, but programming is certainly a big deal in terms of the use of a park and getting people engaged and taking ownership. Let's see. Unifying the park systems, exterior lighting, security, and site amenities and equipment, basically from a purchasing standpoint. So we don't spec a type of fixture or play equipment that is obsolete next year and you can't find parts for, or that we don't select them so that Crowley Park needs different parts than Connell Park, things like that. So try and get some uniformity in purchasing. Determine the maintenance operation requirements and improvements for the park. Determine the capital improvement cost and define a phased implementation plan. And guys, I tend to talk fast. Stop me whenever you feel the need. This is basically our flow chart, and this is our study milestones and the things that we have to accomplish. We need to research and assemble our background information, prepare site topographic base maps for each park, prepare a site inventory and analysis for each park, engage the public, develop study recommendations and priorities to offer to the city, prepare conceptual plans and budget estimates for each park individually, and then implement those plans as we work through with the city in terms of what the priorities are. We've already accomplished most of the gathering of existing documentation, any drawings we could find from old park construction plans. We're in the process of working with Mr. Fallon on getting lists of maintenance equipment and staff that's available to do work on the parks. Past operating budgets, past capital improvement budgets, past events programming, and also sports and athletic organizations that are involved, and in some cases lease some city-owned facilities.
Tom, go back to that picture if you could. I think that's my Uncle John jumping in the pool there. Does he look familiar? It's one of them. It might be one of them.
Yeah, that is that's Rockwell Avenue Playground Pool for the 1960s when they filled them every day and drained them every night.
Oh yeah, I heard a lot of stories about that pool.
Oh yeah, and that could be John, for all we know. But in doing the parks inventory, paramount in red on top, safety, public safety first. Any unsafe conditions or hazards, physical, visibility, things like that. We want to document those, and there are priorities. Second priority is accessibility. All playgrounds, park areas need to be accessible and in compliance with ADA recommendations and requirements. We'll be looking at the site amenities there, playgrounds, and the level of maintenance or lack thereof. As our park project planning process goes, it's strange that the contract said like there's approximately 35 or 37 city parks. I don't think we know how many city parks there are. There are some parks that are leased out, like Clover Field was leased out to the West Side Jets, Connell Park, part of that to the South Side Steelers, I imagine. I forget their names. But at any rate, Harmon Field, a lot of parks are leased to different organizations with different types of agreements. We haven't seen those yet, but we hope to get those from Mr. Fallon. So in order to organize this so that the city and interested civic groups or neighborhood associations, citizens can look at this plan for guidance on what should or what could happen in their park, we're basically going to we started with an overall city map, superimposed the zip codes, and then all the small green areas there, they're all city-owned parks. And there are some other parcels in here that are along the levee system that are city-owned, part of the LHVA Trail or some of their amenities, like the Naog Avenue Nature Play Area, Olive Street Pavilion, those kind of areas. So we're going to take a citywide map. This is helpful from a funding standpoint because OECD can fund certain neighborhoods within certain zip codes. So this will help identify in terms at the conclusion of the report, when it comes to implementation, what kind of funding could be available for a particular park in a particular area of the city. We're going to take that map and we're going to go to a larger scale where we'll present more information on what parks are in there, their size or acreage, and maybe a list of amenities, things like that. That will be taken down to this level here. This is the concept we did back about 5 years ago for Fellows Park on Main Avenue in West Scranton. This illustrates the kind of plan that we'll be preparing for each park. We'll do our site inventory analysis. We'll get input from the public. We'll look at the background information. We'll synthesize that together, come up with a list of recommendations for each park. Those recommendations will, once approved by the city or at least acknowledged that we can move forward at that point, will include a concept plan and a budget for each park. That way, going forward, I believe our contract has 2 parts to it, and both are either the first year is to do this study, the second and through 5 years, if the city is in agreement to do that, to prepare construction drawings for each park, apply for various state, federal, or county funding for parks, whatever is appropriate to that situation, and then to implement those plans. So it's designed to set the city up so that for grant applications, they can be ready to go basically. For over the next 5 years, all of these plans will be in compliance with the main source of funding, which is state, primarily DCED, Act 13, and a big source for a lot of the work that we do is PADC&R money. So these concept plans and budgets will be acceptable by them. This is what they will look like for each park. There'll be some more detail in it, but basically we'll get a consensus plan that the municipality's in agreement, the neighbors, citizens that we got input from, and create a plan for that. Then we'll put a cost analysis with that, and then this can go forward. We will probably put some contingencies on the cost analysis, because if we look at what happened to construction in 2020 versus 2019, most of our cost estimating history went out the window with supply chain issues, contract availability, a whole bunch of stuff. It's really hard to keep a handle on costs when you have a big event like that. So we're hoping to get some more stability, but we're also expecting more inflation. Things go slower now. Again, the supply chain interruptions, prices are going up. It's just the way it's going to be. So with that, let me see what else we got here. It's a park concept plan, public engagement. This part is pretty important. What we're going through right now, when we filled out responded to this RFP, we had public meetings scheduled. We were going to do them at different places, maybe the Kaiser Valley Community Center, the East Mountain Neighborhood Association, Weston Park. We were going to have our 3 public meetings in different locations throughout the city. Well, now we're engaging in our meetings will have to be public meetings through city council or some other forum on the city's website, our video site. So we have our Zoom meetings, we have park user survey, we are talking with neighbors and stakeholders. And actually Bill Gaw had mentioned this to me probably last summer, that he had seen someplace a park ambassadors program. We've used those before with very good results. You need the people, particularly across the street from the park, to be engaged. They need to take ownership of it. And you like the neighborhood to coalesce around it and aid in what they want there and aid in programming it and having events there, basically to keep the park alive. So with that said, we have a live survey that hopefully this technology works. That I think if after your meeting tonight, that Eileen or Carl was going to authorize that to be put live online if it's not already, to be accessible by the public. This is actually, I clicked the wrong link. This is actually, when we get survey results in, we've got a subscription to this Legend survey site that we can analyze those results as they come in. So I think so far, basically myself and Carl maybe, and another employee took the survey, and these are, so we get pie charts of the results. It's really easy to analyze this, synthesize it together into recommendations, and then include it in the report as supporting documentation. So this really covers your DCNR requirements for public participation, which they're very heavy on. They want to make sure that what you're doing is what the public expresses a need for. So let me see if I can take that and get rid of it somehow.
And Tom, I was just thinking maybe the newspaper can help us out too and print the link to that in an article at some point so that people know that they can go there and fill that out. Yes, and I think that Eileen has that in the works as well. Oh, does she? Oh, great. Yeah. Let's see. Bear with me 1 second here. Oh, my slides. I think this is where we want to be. Yes, that's it. So let me try this. Oh, we only got one in there. Okay, so I can't bring up the survey, so I'm not going to keep trying to do that. And I know my presentation was quick. I'll entertain any questions that you might have. So I don't have so really a question, is just a comment that, I really think that what the city has done here in entering into a contract with your firm, Tom, and all the expertise that you have in being a city resident your entire life and knowing as much as you do about parks, I really think that this is probably one of the most important things that the city has done in a long, long time. You know that I live right across the street from McLean Park over here, and my kids are there almost every day. And now that the weather's getting nice, and since the pandemic, that's all we really did last year was just go around to each of the city parks. And I know that if younger families are even thinking about moving into the city, they're looking at the school district, and they're also looking at where the parks are in the neighborhoods. So to me, this is such a great opportunity over the next 5 to 10 years to really invest in each one of these parks, because, in many of our neighborhoods, they're landmarks. McLean Park, Billy Bear Park in Manuka, you could go on and on and on. Crowley Park is beautiful. We go there all the time. So I just want to thank you for the work that you put in and that you're going to put in. This is a huge, huge benefit to the city, because outside our people, I think our parks are probably, one of the biggest assets that we have in the city of Scranton. So thank you. And if we can be of any assistance, please let us know how we can do that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Kyle, Mark, Tom?
I'm good. Just thank you. I think just to add on to what Bill said, these are important. Parks are important to our neighborhoods. And that whole park ambassador program, I think, is something we need to really look into, because I think that buy-in is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too, Tom, when you mentioned about the programming, and I heard stories from my parents and my aunts and uncles about the different things they used to do in the parks years and years ago when they had the funding for that sort of thing. But if there was a way that we could bring that back, I mean, even at McLean Park, in the spring and summer, I see so many kids that congregate over there, and it would be nice. And I think if there was some type of programming, and I do think that kids would take advantage of that. So if there was a way that we could, to find a way to do that, I think that'd be very beneficial for the young people throughout the city. And that would be something that I would definitely be interested in. But in terms of the parks, is there a park or a number of parks that need the most work that you've seen so far, or need the most kind of TLC in terms of upgrades?
Far and away, Oakmont Park. I haven't seen it in a couple of years, but the last time I saw it was pavement and swing sets. And that's it's a fairly affluent neighborhood. And you're absolutely right. Parks do affect the demographics around it. And you want to see examples of that. I'm hoping and praying that Novembrino comes to a conclusion early this spring and will open up, and that will be a huge impact on that neighborhood. If you watched at what happened, and that neighborhood needs it. And if you watch what happened with Connors Park on Orchard Street, all of a sudden, all those people who were hidden behind the old post office on the block there, they're painting their houses. They're sitting on their front porch now. I mean, the neighborhood has coalesced around that. I think they lock the gate at night. They have security cameras. The Smurls and Bob Gattens, they're everywhere down there. And the park shows that. And they have their events. They have their craft sales and other things that go on, and they're well attended. So yeah, I think Oakmont is probably the worst, but there's a number of them, and it's mostly a question of procedures, of how you program and maintain those parks. When you can do that, they benefit the property values and everything else. We work in a number of different jurisdictions. We're on our 6th park for the city of Harrisburg now over the last 5 years, based on one concept plan that we did 5 years ago. We have the Reservoir Park is the equivalent of Naog Park in the city. We're doing a Chutes and Ladders Park there. It's like, right now it's $600,000 in the budget, but that's a huge draw, that kind of thing. It will bring people from outside of Harrisburg to do it. The other parks are working really well for the neighborhoods. Some of those neighborhoods really needed it, like we do here. So yeah, I don't think you can underestimate the quality of life of a good, active, healthy park system.
I noticed it
to the city.
I noticed it over here while you were involved heavily in McLean Park in those plans, and I could see it over here big time. We have great neighborhood. It's a great neighborhood over here, and all the neighbors know each other, and that park really just upgraded the neighborhood. Not that it was in terrible condition before, but it just needed some upgrades, new playground equipment, the fence around the softball field, and the transformation was amazing. And now you start to see people that you didn't see before, that would take their kids to another park because that one, the equipment just got old and it wasn't as safe as it should have been. So I just, again, I want to thank you for the work that you put into this. I think it's fantastic. And is it true, Tom, that because of this, eventually when we have this master plan, it may be easier to get grant money from the different organizations?
It definitely will. We do DCNR work all the time. We help city and county and most jurisdictions in Northeastern PA. Whenever they ask us to apply for grants. And exactly what we give them is a budget and a concept, which you will have here, along with the public process and the planning process. That will surely be an advantage with DCNR and other state agencies. Basically, there's nothing like having a plan on the shelf when a politician's looking for funding. We have a program. We'd like to apply that program to our constituency. Here we go. So yeah, it will definitely streamline. It will save you a lot of money in the long run. Your grant process will be smoother, more efficient, quicker. The applications should be well received. I know that DCNR is working with the city on a couple of things now. They funded heavily into Novembrino. I think they'll be involved at Naog Park. So yeah, it just streamlines all the funding. Now I see our other consultants on the pool project are showing their smiley faces here. So maybe, unless anybody has a question.
Yeah, does anyone else have any questions for Tom?
The only,
Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
only have one more real quick. In terms of the maintenance of our parks, and you said the process, is there some sort of ratio of, like a standard of that you want to get to that would, one employee per, acreage of parks, for example? Is there some standard there in terms of, what we would need then to properly maintain our parks?
Yeah, there are national standards, but they don't always apply well to an individual park. The bigger the area, the better they apply. But we're going to go on some of that background research information that we did. We're going to go on the city budgets and look at the results, and then look at what kind of equipment you have, how effective it is. Fast zero radius lawnmowers are a great thing, particularly when you have so many ball fields. So yeah, we're going to gauge that by the history and what we think the needs are currently and project that forward. So yeah, there are some standards there that we use.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, did you have a question? Or
I just have a quick remark, not a question.
I'm
We're
sorry.
almost done with this meeting. I know time's our enemy here, but you brought me back to the 60s when you start. We're probably the same age. I don't know. But the playground programs, remember, like every day there were activities, sports against other playgrounds. I know the district worked in unison with the city and the parks, but I'd love to see some of them programs come back. They were fantastic. Very engaging every day.
every day, and by today's cost versus those costs aren't that different, and it's not an insurmountable cost. And there are lots of philanthropy and other things out there that you can approach for that philanthropy that you can approach for it. But yeah, programming, and I still have a feeling that we should try and tap into the school district. Those programs are run by young teachers and recent graduates of educational programs. And they showed up 5 days a week. They had resources to work with. They brought games, things with them. They had a program of anything from a beauty contest with your bicycle to, all sorts of things. I actually did water ballet in that pool in the Rockville Avenue pool. If you think I would do water ballet, I never saw it. But it worked well. We had an interested parent, and that's what did it, So, but we're really excited about this. I've worked over the last 30 years. I moved back here from DC in 1990, and I've been working here ever since as a sole proprietor. And what we've always wanted to do and what we've always done is Parks and Recreation. We're really happy to be here doing this plan. And we're going to do the best job we can.
So it's really great to see this thing taking shape. When I'm seeing some of the schematics and the diagrams, it's great to see it coming along. And I think you're seeing it by the conversation here. You're seeing some people with some ideas, so it's bringing some hope with these parks. The presentation we saw tonight, will that be available to council? And any of the schematics that go along with each of the parks, will they be available as they come out?
Yeah, I can send it to you guys to Eileen or to Carl. I didn't get into the report. We do have a draft report. We fill out the outline and we start plugging in places as we gather more and more information. I think some of this should be available right now. I'm a little concerned about half information being available, particularly if it deals with a particular neighborhood park. It's almost like dealing with someone's house. You want to get public input before you give them the final product. So what would be really important, if you can include us on a future agenda for your public meetings, for your regularly scheduled meetings, if you could give us 15 minutes, that's a good way this presentation will be, I put it together pretty quickly for today, but this presentation will be much more polished and geared toward the public. So that's the way we want to get them involved. And then we go out to these parks, which would make them more site visits now. We finished the inventories. Now we're going back to make the recommendations for improvements. The neighbors come out and talk to you. When they see you out there with a clipboard or a drawing, they engage you and say, what are you up to? What are you doing? And we get lots of input that way as well.
Okay.
So, okay. I don't want to take up any more of these guys' times. So good luck on the pool, and thank you guys very much.
All right. Thanks, Tom. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have a lot of guests here tonight. It's like Hollywood Squares. I see some old friends. Paul Kelly, my good friend there. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine, Bill. How are you, sir?
Good, good. Bob Gattens is here. We have Brian Fallon, Eileen Cipriani. Okay. We're going to start our regular meeting, if you don't mind, and then we're going to tie your presentation into fourth order. So it'll take about 5 or 10 minutes. and we'll start our regular meeting now. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me just share my screen so we could share the American flag. Okay, I'd like to call this public meeting to order, Tuesday, March 9th, 2021, Scranton City Council. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would everyone please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community. I'd like to also take a moment of silence tonight for all of the people in our community, in our country, and around the world who have passed away from the coronavirus. This pandemic has turned our world upside down, but we must remain hopeful and strong. We continue to pray for the doctors, the nurses, the researchers, and all medical professionals who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they have protection and peace. Whether we are home or abroad, surrounded by many people suffering from this illness or only a few, let us stick together, endure together, mourn together, and in place of our anxiety, let us have hope and peace. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Present.
Mr. McAndrew,
Present.
Dr. Rothschild, Mr. Donahue,
Here.
Mr. Gahn.
Here.
Okay, I would like to make a quick motion to appoint Councilman Donahue as temporary chair for the Committee of Community Development.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it and so moved. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Thank you. Third order, 3A, City of Scranton Independent Auditors Report and Financial Statements dated December 31, 2019, prepared by Kohansky Company, PC. 3B, Overtime Review for all departments as provided by City Controller dated March 3, 2021 for the period January and February 2021. 3C, excuse me, 3C minutes of the Scranton Redevelopment Authority regular meeting held January 6, 2021. 3D minutes approved March 3, 2021 for the Scranton Redevelopment Authority special annual meeting held February 5, 2020. 3E minutes of the Civil Service Commission meeting held February 4, 2021.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? I have a few comments on the overtime report that I'd like some answers to from the administration for next week if possible. So one of the things that I brought up last year, towards the end of the year, was the fact that we did not have any money budgeted in the overtime category for the law department. Yet there was money that was expended for overtime. This year for the 2021 budget, we did not have any overtime budgeted, yet money is being spent on overtime. So, you know, it has always been my understanding, and I looked back at the last few budgets from 2015 to 2019, there was never any money budgeted for overtime and there was never any money spent. So, you know, when council approves a budget and we put a 0 in the line item, then I expect that unless there's an extraordinary circumstance that there's going to be no money spent because there's no money there in the line item. So it wasn't a lot of money that was spent, but I just want to make sure that this is not a recurring issue. Otherwise, if we felt it was necessary, we would have put that money in there. Also, I do have a concern. We've spent now $116,557.16 on overtime in the police department just in the month of January alone. So far, according to Controller Murray's report, we've spent about a quarter of our budget. So I just want to know if there's a reason behind that, if there's retirements or what's going on there. And then the last point I'd like to make on that, DPW administration, there was $2,250 that was budgeted. We've spent $2,700.83. Now, I'm assuming that's because of the snowstorm. However, I looked at previous budgets again from 2015 to 2019. There was never any money budgeted for DPW administration overtime, and there was never any money spent. Or if there was, it was in the area of $20 to $30. So I would like to know if there's some kind of new policy now that we're giving supervisors overtime, and why we're spending that much money on overtime in that administration line item, and what has changed from the past 5 or 6 years. So Mrs. Reed, if you can check in with the business administrator on that, that would be very helpful. And that's all I have. Does anyone else have any comments on the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time? I have a few, just to give everybody an update on the next 2 or 3 weeks in terms of people who are coming to give presentations at our caucus meetings. So next week, March 16th, we are going to have a public hearing at 5:45 regarding the denial of the application that went in front of the Historic Architectural Review Board, the HARB. That was Resolution 120 of 2021. So that'll be a public hearing next week, and we'll have those people come in and state their case. And I think that there was a certified mail that went out to them to notify them. After that public hearing, we'll have Stephen Osolinsky from the Pennsylvania American Water Company come in and give us an update on upcoming water projects. And then in fourth order, we're going to have Don King, the city planner, and potentially Joe O'Brien, the city solicitor, come in and talk to us about a piece that's on our agenda tonight, which is the Meadowbrook sponsorship agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. We'll also have Carl Dealey, our business administrator, along with the chief of police, come in and talk about the OpenGov contract that's going to be coming down next week regarding some movement in the IT department to update our operating platform, and also to talk about there's 2 agenda items in fifth order regarding the upgrades to the Sereni Center. On March 23rd, we have a public hearing at 5:45 for the OECD CAPER. In fourth order, we have this is tentative at this point, an exit conference with the auditor, Kohansky Company, and the business administrator, Carl Dealey, regarding the 2019 audit. And then on March 30th, Director Cipriani at 5:45, and MKSD, the company who is here tonight, is going to talk about the draft study, NAOG pool, the feasibility study that's being done. So they'll come for a second round. So that takes us out to March 30th. Anyone else have any announcements? Okay, very good. Mrs. Reed.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Okay, we are going now to talk about the NAOG pool feasibility study. So we have quite a few people with us here tonight. Many of them, I think, are representatives from MKSD. So just for the sake of the public, I'd like to go around the room, if you don't mind, the gentlemen who are here from MKSD, if you don't mind introducing yourselves really quick.
Certainly. Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Chambers. I'm with MKSD Architects. With me tonight, I have Nick Hughes.
Hey, everybody.
From MKSD. Yep. And George Dinas, who is with Councilman Hunsaker. And Councilman Hunsaker is an aquatics consulting firm. I think George is based out of Dallas, but we've worked with them to complete many studies across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, very similar to the one that we're performing for the city of Scranton and that we'll be talking about this evening. So if you would like to do more introductions, or Nick and George, you have anything to say?
I'd just like to introduce myself. Again, I'm Nick Hughes, one of the architects at MKSD Architects. So it's great meeting everybody. We've had the pleasure of working with our committee, the pool committee here. Many of the members are with us today, Eileen and Paul and Bob. And like I said, and George is with us. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Okay, thank you. And we also have Director Cipriani, who's been with us before quite a few times. He does a great job as the Executive Director of OECD. We also have Brian Fallon, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation, who again, I think is a friend to all of us and does a wonderful job in that department, running that department. Bob Gattens, who you're the chairman, right? Still, Bob, of the Recreation Authority?
That's correct.
Okay, Bob is the chairman of the Recreation Authority. And we have Paul Kelly here, who is the solicitor for the Recreation Authority. So thank you all for being here. I'll now turn it over to you gentlemen and other representatives of the city to walk us through this feasibility study that we have in front of us. And feel free to share your screen if you need to.
Thank you. Just start out. We've begun this study, had multiple conversations with our committee, just going through the needs and wants, what the desire is, as we proceed with a full feasibility study of what can be done, if anything, with the existing pool facilities. And then we've recently proceeded with a on-site survey of the facilities, the pump house, the bathhouse, and the existing pools. And then from there have developed a report of that site visit, which I believe you all should have received today, I believe, if not yesterday. And from there, as we proceed further, we'll be continuing the study, developing our thoughts, getting drawings and options together, and to give you a full report of what can be done and different options of if you go with a revise or a repair, renovate, or replace options for this facility. It'll include financial information, budgetary information, and different aquatic trends that could essentially or potentially be introduced into this facility. And we'll go over those as well tonight. But I'd like to turn the floor over to George, who is, as Todd mentioned, is our aquatics consultant. And he'll be able to walk you through this, what we've found so far on site, and also the aquatic trends.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is George Dynas. I'm with Councilman Hunsaker, and we do the aquatic facility planning and design. And as Todd mentioned, have teamed with him and Nick on numerous projects across the state of Pennsylvania. And so I guess a couple of things what we'd like to do is, first off was the report that we shared earlier today. We were on site just last Monday and walked the site and got a feel for the current condition of the pool and the pool mechanical system. And so if you haven't had a chance to read through all of the report, essentially what we found is that just given the condition of the structure of the existing slide pool, that we would not recommend trying to renovate that pool in its current form to try to use again. You know, it did have a liner that was ripped out, season before last or earlier this year. And what we found underneath the liner was that the plaster pool surface has completely delaminated in several areas of the pool. And you can see that in some of the photos at the end of our report. It essentially looks like gravel and just chunks of rock underneath the pool liner. And the last season that you were open, there were complaints from the pool guests that they could actually feel that underneath the membrane liner. And so when we start to look at, the expected lifespan for an outdoor pool, typically being in that 30 to 40 year range, we look at the existing condition of not only the pool shell, but also where the gutter meets the pool walls, and just there are chunks of concrete and tile that you can really just pick out and pull the pieces of rock out. We take into consideration the fact that the mechanical system has never undergone a renovation, and so a lot of the original components of that, the filter, The cast iron piping, the pump and the strainer basket in the mechanical room are showing significant signs of corrosion that we would recommend that for the slide pool, that you go ahead and start over. There's a couple of different options that we detailed in the report in terms of, can you use pieces of the existing shell, whether you build a pool within a pool, which is something that our firm has designed before, or you could break up the existing pool shell and then build a pool over that. So there are a couple of options to consider there. And those are some of the things that we will explore over the next few weeks and then present back on March the 30th in terms of what is the right size for the existing pool. Do you need 9,000 to 12,000 square foot single pool, or do you need a couple of smaller pools? We could see reusing the existing slide tower in its existing location if we went ahead and designed a new pool with a slide catch area right beneath that. So there are a lot of options on the table that we're excited about exploring, and we'll be excited to share those in the coming weeks. So with that, what I'd like to do is maybe just stop down for a minute, and if you have any questions on the pool, or Nick and Todd are here, they can speak more to the site and the bathhouse. We can do that, and then we have a couple of slides that we'd like to briefly run through as well.
So I have a question on this. On the slide. The slide is in okay condition?
Correct. Yeah, we did not see any, there's a couple things that we look for in terms of significant corrosion on the slide tower. We look for, cracks where the fiberglass pieces of the slide have come apart, but in talking with Bob, they did not observe any, visible leaks the last time that the slide was running. And so without having, an actual slide manufacturer come out and give a full assessment of the slide, we do feel that it's something that could be reused just based upon the visible inspection that we did.
In your estimation, do you think that it's possible that this pool will be, Neog Park pool will be open by this summer?
I would think that would not be possible, just given the limited window that you have from now until, Memorial Day, or even if you pushed it out to June 15th, the amount of work that would need to be done, to get it up and operational. We would have to, you'd have to have a contractor tear off, all of the plaster surface. Then you would have to repair the concrete, in the areas that it's failed. You would also then have to either paint that surface or install a new liner over that, plus with, having not run the mechanical system in 2 seasons, or, it's been since the 2019 season. Since it's been running, I feel that would be extremely difficult to get the pool open for this coming season.
And there's no way that, you can, I'm just thinking, my concern is that, if the pool doesn't open this summer, well, first of all, we're going to be coming, hopefully, out of the pandemic. All the young kids up in that area and really around the city are going to want to get out, and families are going to want to get out and get to the recreational areas, especially this is one of our biggest assets. So my concern is that you don't have this pool open. These kids are going to go to the gorge, they're going to go other places. Is there any way that you can put some temporary fixes on it and open it with the goal of, after the summer season is over, moving towards a complete overhaul, or is that not possible either?
I think that could be possible if you, would strip down the pool plaster and then reinstall a brand new liner all the way across the pool structure. But, in its current state, and even talking with Bob last week, the liner company would not warranty the installation of the liner just because of the condition of the pool. And I think that just seeing the number of gaps that are around the perimeter of the pool, beneath the gutter and the pool shell, that could be, it's cause for concern that you could lose a massive amount of water during the summer season if, the liner isn't perfectly installed and there's ways for the water to get back behind there. And then when it gets back behind the liner, then it bubbles up as you can see on the deeper pool right now. And the same thing happened on the slide pool the last time it was operational.
I think in addition to that, just so I can add, there's also the issues all around the deck. The concrete sidewalk and deck around the pool itself has some significant cracking and heaving that would not pass inspection without some repairs to that as well, which would all be part of the overall repairs. But I mean, in your question regarding, can something temporarily be done? I'm not sure, short of something, ripping out big chunks of that deck and completely replacing it just to get something temporarily. And, I'm not sure that you would be able to pass inspection as it is now, for sure.
Okay. One of the questions I have too is I'm up there a lot with my kids walking around when the weather's nice because the park is beautiful, obviously. But the other pool that, I think the plan was eventually to fill that in. Do we know or have any idea when that's going to be done? My concern with that is if you get a young child or a teenager that, jumps that fence at night, especially, and falls in there, that's like a 13 to 14 foot drop. So is there any plans to fill that in the near future?
Councilman Gahn, I could address that. We're preparing a bid proposal that is out on the street right now for demolition, and that is part of the package. So right now we're trying to figure out how much it will cost. Okay, great.
I have other questions, but I don't want to hold up the presentation. I know you have more to present here. Does anyone else from council have any questions while we stop here at this slide?
Yeah, President Guyan, just so when we're looking at this presentation right now, we're just discussing the other pool. The scope of this presentation, does it just cover the shallower slide pool, or is it both pools included in this presentation?
Well, today we're going over, like we just did, our findings of the existing facility. The intent, I believe, with this study, and the committee has always represented this, is that the deeper pool, the idea is it to be demolished and filled in, and a different either aquatic facilities like a spray pad or something would be an option to go in that location. But the presentation, other than that tonight, is to go over various options of what's available as we move forward in our study to see what can be put in where the slide pool is now and other amenities around it. But yes, the other pool, the deeper pool, the idea was to get rid of that.
Okay, so this is just covering the shallower slide pool. And then when we're talking about the pool house, are we talking about, so the picture that we're looking at here, there's the building that we could see in the picture, but there's also the pool house, the building that's off of, or that's out of frame on this photo here, towards the end of the deeper pool?
Yeah, that would be the pump house that houses all the equipment. So given there's electrical equipment within that shows corrosion just because of the chemicals that are stored within it, and the existing conditions, how they're all original. A lot of that building, needs some good work and good repairs to it. We would, as we move forward with the project, we would, if this becomes an actual project and we move ahead with complete renovations and things based on the new equipment that would be needed, we would evaluate a site. Either if we could reuse part of that building, great, but from what it looks like now, we'd probably want to locate something in that location and possibly on another end of the property to accommodate the new equipment. But as it stands now, that pump house is not really in very good shape. And as far as the bathhouse is concerned, the committee has let us know that there's a need for that to be much larger. Right now, it's basically just 2 toilet rooms. There's really not any lockers or places for people to change. There are a couple showers in there, but like they've mentioned, if there is a rainstorm that comes, everyone on the pool deck tries to run inside that space, and it's not really large enough to accommodate that. So we would also look at that as part of the study.
Okay, so yeah, so we're talking about that pump house that's out of frame. I'm just making sure it's clear to council and then everybody at home watching that, what buildings there we're talking about. Now, this pool was built in 1966. Was the other pool, the deeper pool, was also the same year?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how about the actual, the bathhouse and the slides? What year, just so it's fresh on everybody's mind, what year were they from?
08, 07, 78. I think the slides, yeah, around there. Approximately 15 years, Councilman.
All right, thank you.
I have a quick question. I don't know if I should pose it to George or just the team here. So I looked at the assessment, and it is an assessment with options. I looked at the options. I would like a recommendation. I mean, is it cheaper to repair or replace at this point? I mean, do we pull the Band-Aid off and say, you know what, let's just replace it? Because from what I looked at and what you've said already, it sounds really, it's in horrible shape to just repair. So I want to know what your recommendations are based on your findings outside of the options. Repair, replace, just that's an easy.
Yeah, and our final report will evaluate, provide options. Usually we do repair, renovate, replace. I don't think repair is really too great of an option for this pool, unfortunately. So you will see renovate and replace options in the study, as the final results of the study, and there will be financial data to support those and help you make a decision. And we will, of course, provide a recommendation one way or the other based on input we get from the public and from the committee as well.
Okay, you guys can continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to know, I mean, time's our enemy. It's our enemy. It's March. So you said you're going to come back. So what does that look like?
So usually our process is that we meet with the public and get some input, and we have a few committee meetings, and then we formulate some options, and then we bring it back to the public and to council to review the results that come out of the public meetings.
Eileen, I think it might be wise to alert council as to what the timetable is on these studies. This is basically just the first part. It's a facility
Correct.
report. Why don't you, Eileen, if you would, why don't you update council on what we need to get to a final study?
Sure. So what we're doing is we're following the checklist and timeline that DCNR puts into all of their pre-grant applications. DCNR requires a feasibility study for any grant. The next grant round for DCNR closes in the middle of April. So this study will be completed prior to that. So it will be able to inform that grant application. So part of this study, and that's why we're here tonight to seek your input, and we need to open up a period of public comment. We actually have two studies. They're up on the website tonight that people could go on and give their input, but that's a vital piece of this that DCNR looks for in advance of their grants.
Correct. There's our surveys that are on the website, and we're meeting, we're giving a presentation at the mayor's meeting on Friday. Yes, correct. Town hall. Thank you.
On Friday.
Right.
Yes.
But Councilman McAndrew, that the idea that on the 30th, they will come back to us with their recommendations and costs, and that will be able to feed our grant application. So, a decision could be rendered and we can figure out what way to go and what to apply for.
Yes, typically, like on the 30th, we come back with a draft report and review that with council, and then we would finalize that draft into a final report after that meeting with council. George, you want to run through the rest of your slide deck?
Sure thing. So what we essentially discussed was our process slide that we have here. So that was a good segue. And so, our goal in teaming with MKSD is to provide you all with, good, solid data and information regarding the Naog Park pool. And for you guys to use that to make a knowledgeable decision on how best to move forward about the continued operation of the facility into the future. And so, as Todd mentioned, we'll come back here in a few weeks with several different options to explore. Obviously, comparing that, what does we had put $1.65 million in our report as the cost to repair to get it operational, but that really doesn't buy you that much more time, and you still have the same functional facility. It does not function any differently than it does now. It's a brand new 1966 pool. And so what we want to make sure that we do is provide you with some other options as well. When we look at the aquatic user groups, we typically classify those in 4 different sections between recreation, competition, instruction, as well as wellness and therapy. When you're looking at the outdoor seasonal aquatics, it's a vital part of any community. We find that recreation is going to generate probably 75 to 80% of the uses of those types of facilities. And in terms of today's amenities, we're seeing things like 0 depth entries and children's play structures that can be themed, or they can really be any shape and size. We find that vertical water sprays are very popular to incorporate for the young ones. Open water recreational area is also very popular, as well as these types of walkable, floatable activities. It's great to get kids active and healthy and give them a challenge. We find that, there's some different types of moving water that we could incorporate. Here's a couple of examples of maybe a current channel, which is, typically a little bit smaller than a lazy river that you might see at a true commercial water park. Incorporating lap lanes for the competitive side, or even just the fitness side. But then those lap lanes can also double for general recreation. You see this lap pool here has a climbing wall as well as a diving board. And then on the other end, you have a water basketball goal that can be used. Climbing walls are something that have replaced some diving boards here the past few years, but we still find diving is a really popular amenity. And now that the industry and the codes have gotten the depths and slopes worked out, we really don't see that, that it's a huge liability concern. And so we could definitely look at climbing wall or diving board. Here you have something that is a natural rockscape that has a diving platform. It has a climbing wall as well as a water slide for some deep water recreation. And then we also like to couple that with water slides of all types and sizes. You all have the slides now that I'm assuming probably have a 48-inch height requirement, and so not all the kids can ride those. So some of these slides here are for ages 2 to 7 until they hit that 48-inch height requirement. And so we can explore a variety of water slides, whether they're open and closed. Maybe they end in the water, maybe they end in the deck in a fiberglass run out. So those are some of the different options in terms of recreation that we'll explore. When we look at competition, that's essentially dictated by the fact, do you have, summer swim teams that would be interested in using the pool, and that might help you to decide, do you want, 6 lanes, 8 lanes, or even go back to a 50-meter pool. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we couple that or multi-purpose that water so that it's not just lap lanes, that it also serves as a good capacity holder for open water recreation. Obviously, you all know the importance of swimming lessons, and summer seasonal aquatics is one of the first ways that the majority of kids get introduced to the water. And so being able to have shallow water that's 2.5 to 3.5 feet deep with maybe a teaching ledge like you see here is always vital to teach kids how to swim. And then lastly, wellness and therapy opportunities. And the picture you see here, I like to show because it's a 6-lane lap pool, but it actually has several different purposes. So in the first lane, there was general open lap swim. In the second lane, you'll see an instructor over here teaching a child how to swim. And then there's a special needs water walking class in the shallow area, and that still leaves open the deep area for, you know, a deep water aerobics class or another type of activity. And so we always like to talk about multi-purposing those spaces of water. And then lastly, what I'd like to show is, you know, just some different pictures of before and after of some facilities that we've designed.
I think your audio went out, George.
Yeah, George, you're cut out of there.
Oh, no. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. So these are some before and after pictures of pools that are similar to NAOG Park pool in size and layout and condition. And so it just gives you an idea of you know, some of the different ways that we can take an older style pool and turn it into a more of a modern family aquatic center, something that caters to families within the Scranton community. And then the pictures on the far right there is the one that we teamed with Todd and Nick and MKSD on up in Chambersburg, where we did essentially followed this exact process. We started out with a pool assessment. We found that this pool has reached the end of its useful life, and we designed a more modern family aquatic center that you know, they were really pleased with. So that's a quick minute or two on our study process and some of the different avenues of pool amenities that we'll explore. And with that, I think we'd like to open it back up to any questions or comments that you have. And we're looking forward to continuing the process, you know, being a part of the mayor's town hall this Friday, as well as pushing out the community survey to get the community's input on what they would like to see at NAOG Park.
Thank you for the presentation. We really appreciate it. I have one comment and then 2 or 3 questions. So my first comment, just looking at all that you presented, is that, you know, based on your assessment so far, it doesn't look like it makes any sense to continue to put Band-Aids on the pool. You'd be throwing good money after bad, based on your professional opinion, and you guys have been doing this for a long time, and in other cities. I actually think it's an opportunity to make an investment in the community, and in what I think is one of the greatest assets that we have in Scranton, in making sure that this pool is you know, going to be here for the next 40 to 50 years or 30 to 40 years, whatever it is. So I actually think this is an opportunity to do this the right way, and to make sure that this is a great recreation area for all of our residents. The one question that I do have for anyone who wants to answer on the committee, I've heard about concerns regarding the pool since spring of last year, even before that, about the liner and about the deck and really the whole pool facility. So is there any reason why it's taken this long to get a company to come in and do an analysis? I mean, I would think last year was the perfect opportunity for us to, you know, really put this on the front burner rather than the back burner, so that there maybe was the potential that we could have the pool open for this summer. So is there any reason why there wasn't more of a push to put this at the forefront last year when we knew that there was some issues?
I'll take a stab at answering that, Councilman. This is Paul Kelly.
Sure.
When we realized, the Recreation Authority realized that the pool was failing, we put out an RFP and got a bid from the most responsible bidder to put a liner in there. And then COVID struck. And I don't want to just keep using COVID as an excuse, but it really set us back, Councilman. No one was even producing liners to install. It just completely put a stop sign on everything. And as you know, RFPs take time. You have to advertise them. They have to be bids had to be open. On top of that, while we were doing the bid processing, during the 2019 season, the bottom surface of the pool began to bubble. And that raised great concerns for the Recreation Authority members and for the city as to whether or not, as you said, were we putting a Band-Aid on a very bad wound here? Are we wasting money putting a liner over something last one season or two seasons? And by the way, that was a $225,000 project just to put that Band-Aid on and not address the decking, the pipes that are corroded, the whole system. We need it. And through Eileen's efforts and the committee's efforts, we need some help. We need some help with DCNR, we need some help with grants. And these studies, again, we put this out to RFP. MKSD was the most responsible bidder, was awarded the bid. And they're working under a very tight deadline, Councilman Vaughn. You know, we're asking them to complete a study from February till April 12 to comply with DCNR regulations. So I know everybody's frustrated. Everybody wants to see children swimming. And having lost the 2020 season and in all likelihood losing the 2021 season, it's upsetting, it's frustrating, but I think we are doing it the right way, getting these studies properly done to give us an idea and give the public an idea what needs to be done up there. That's my 2 cents. Bob, Eileen, feel free to add to that if I missed anything.
Well, in hindsight, I wish we did proceed faster with this. I think we had a year last year where more work could have been done, and the Recreation Authority and the administration could have met more often and began looking at an earlier stage. But it didn't happen, and we're here today. Maybe because with the virus, attention was elsewhere, trying to get everything squared away in the city, and we were busy trying to get everything squared away in the park. But I feel we dropped the ball on this. Like it should have been maybe addressed earlier on, and we wouldn't be up against the wire trying to get a grant and everything. But we are, and our goal as the Recreation Authority, and I'm sure along with the rest of the team here, is to the best we can at this point here going forward.
Right. And, you know, I have to applaud the Recreation Authority and our vendor really working hard to help us get the data we need to get the application in and not miss DCNR's window. Because we all realize at the end of the day, this is going to be a project that needs grant funding because of its high costs. So we appreciate everybody's efforts trying to help us make that deadline.
Now, Eileen, at the end of the study, it says the preliminary. I know we're going to get more concrete estimates at the end of March, but at the preliminary estimate just for repairs to reopen the pool is about a little bit over $1.5 million. So I'm not sure how the DCNR grant is set up, but does that require a match? Would that require a match from the city?
It requires a 50% match.
Okay, so.
And, you know, we've had some conversations with the Rec Authority and some other conversations trying to sort out how we would do that. There's also the option, and it's not a good option as far as timeline, but to do it in phases. You know, because I know everybody wants a swimming presence up there as quickly as possible. If we cannot find enough funding, it might have to be a phased project.
So what if we thought about it this way? Because I know it's always risky, you know, you put in the grant application, but you don't know if you're going to get it. And I understand what you're saying about phases. I think that's kind of a gamble too, because, you know, it could take some time. What if we looked at other financing options? I know one of the things we talked about towards the end of last year was refinancing. We were looking at refinancing to plug the hole, a potential hole for next year. So maybe putting a capital component on that, is that a possibility to look at? Or borrowing, could the Recreation Authority, you know, be the borrower and the city could guarantee it, or some kind of financing arrangement like that? And I say that because I you know, we should go for the grant. I agree, but obviously there's always a risk in that. And this is so important. And it's the biggest asset we have if we're going to do it, rather than wait and then maybe not get the grant or not have the match. I think we should really investigate those options as well.
No, I agree with you, and we'll take that back to Carl Deely and the mayor, and see what we can find, what other options we have, and we're certainly open to suggestions.
Yeah, that might be the borrowing might be the easiest way to fast track it. And again, you'd have to, this is probably not a conversation for this meeting, but even if you look at whatever the recreation authorities finances are, and maybe there's an option there, or even the one thing I was thinking about earlier today was the capital budget. We have a lot of money in there for bridge replacement and the city's match, but that's a few years down the road. So is there a way that we can take some of those dollars which are earmarked for the bridge replacement match and reallocate them? I don't know, but I think we should look at other avenues and not put all of our eggs in the grant basket, just in case it does end up coming up short.
Certainly.
For the gentleman from MKSD, in terms of a perfect world situation, which I know we're not in, if everything went the way we wanted it to, and you did a full renovation of the pool, how long do those usually take in terms of like a timeline?
So we're certainly even up against the clock as we speak right now. In an ideal world, we'd finish the study, and then the focus would shift onto immediately creating, finalizing the design for the project and creating the bid documents for that. There's a good possibility that if we started construction, sometime late summer, I think it is feasible, that, we could have the pool back up and running for summer of 22. And that could mean, we open on Memorial Day. It could mean we open for 4th of July. So, we'd have to look at the schedule and how the ultimately selected design would schedule out construction or design and construction wise.
And that estimate, thank you for that answer. The estimate that you have at the end of this report, $1.6 million, that includes the concrete repairs to the pool structure, painted surface, new pool deck, new pool piping, new pool mechanical system, 20% contingency allowance, and 10% for project fees. Does that include any of the other designs that you had showed us before in terms of the different structures, whether it's, no, I'm assuming, right?
I don't believe it does, but George, you can answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is literally just to replace or just to repair the existing structure with no added amenities or anything of that sort. So you essentially have the same pool that you have now.
So that would be so that would be to repair the existing structure. To replace the existing structure would be significantly higher.
Correct, and that's what we'll come back with estimates on here in a couple of weeks.
George, what's your thoughts? I think we discussed this a little bit. If we did repairs of using a liner, is a liner a favorable item at this time, or would we be putting money into a pool to repair it and putting a liner on that possibly could be gone in another 5-10 years again?
Yeah, so our firm, typically we do not recommend liners, whether it's a PVC type liner, or there's even some fiberglass liners, because we essentially see them as a Band-Aid because you've had some type of critical failure and you don't have the time or the funds to do a full replacement, within the next, say, 2 to 5 years. So we really, see that as a short-term investment to just keep the pool operating at a minimal level until you can, do a more substantial renovation.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
I have one quick one. So your renovation examples, were they municipal pools that you redid or refurbished or reconstructed, or that's just a little candy? It looks like the land of make-believe. I mean, is that just a dream option? We just need a pool. Whether you pool in a pool or just, that's just a little fluff, I think, right? Or were they actually municipal pools that you reconfigured to look like that?
So
Yeah, no, those, oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say 3 examples of municipal pools in the state of Pennsylvania that we've completed studies and executed the projects for are Hatfield, and they have a fair amount of the what we'll call amenities. I believe they have 0 depth entry, current channel, water slides. We also did the Percy Menlo Park pool, which has very similar amenities. And then the most recent one is the Borough of Chambersburg. That has 0 depth entry, a play structure, current channel or lazy river, has a separate top pool. Yeah, it has the water crossing. It's soup to nuts. It has lap lanes, diving well. I mentioned the top pool already, and there's even a separate spray pad that goes along with that. So that's kind of like the Cadillac, I guess you could call it, of public aquatic centers in the state of Pennsylvania.
And like you mentioned, like that's part of our study. The final report that we'll give, we will have options. So we know, like you said, a spray pad is something that has been, very enthusiastically mentioned by the committee as a need, instead of, multiple bodies of water or, one massive pool to go fill in the deeper pool. And then we would also provide options of what can be done at the water slide area. Does that become, like you said, just a pool, or what is the layout that could be done to feature some of these more exciting amenities that reinvigorates the Niagara Park and gains an attraction and makes people want to come back and really utilize this from when they're family with small children all the way to when they're older kids and adults. Kind of an ageless and timeless place to go to and enjoy different features. That we'd like to provide all those things, so that's when it helps the committee make a choice of what they would want. Kind of a menu to choose from. It's okay, we like this, and in addition to that, the public feedback, which is what we'll try to gain from the surveys that are out and also the town hall meetings.
So with that being said, some of those pools that we saw pictures of, I mean, the pool that we're talking about is, I guess the price tag is plus or minus 1.6 million. Is that just for the pool and the deck alone with the pool house and that? Or are we talking some of those other options you're talking there would be around that same price?
Yeah, so the 1.6 million is just to get the pool operational for a few more years. The base renovations, it does not include any improvements to the bathhouse or even the pool mechanical building, just the pool mechanical equipment on the inside. And so when we come back here in a few weeks, we'll have the capital and the operational implications for 2 to 3 different scenarios. What if we rebuild an existing a pool similar to the existing pool in Niagara Park? You would probably see a little bit of a bump in attendance and overall revenue, but it's not going to be extreme. Whereas what if we spend X number of dollars more to include some more family friendly amenities, and as Nick mentioned, something that caters to all ages, and what will be the operational implications of that. And so what we want to do is give you that well-rounded look of, these are a couple of different pool options that we've explored. Here's the capital cost associated with those, but as well as that, we want to give you the long-term operational costs, so what if there's going to be a subsidy, what that subsidy would be over the next 15 to 20 years.
Now, when we're looking at all those options, I mean, the last pool that was built in 1966, they said about a 30 to 40 year lifespan. It seems like we got about 55 years out of that pool. When it comes to these new pools, do they have the same type of lifespan? Do all the amenities that come with them have that same lifespan? Are we going to get 40 to 50 years out of one of these new pools?
Yeah, we typically see, a 30+ year lifespan for an outdoor pool. We also will include a capital replacement, budget line item in our expense estimates. So, at year, 17 to year 20 that you'll need to renovate the mechanical system, and at year 9 you need to re-gel coat the slides, and year 15, you probably need to replace some of the fading shade structures. So we'll include estimates like that, but we still would see the pools to have a 30+ year lifespan.
And I'd say probably the more amenities that you have here, the more, sprinklers, the more sprayers, things like that. I mean, the more maintenance, obviously, you're going to incur with that, with lengths of pipes, different things like that. Now, another thing, when we were talking about the RFP for the deeper pool, the pool that was omitted in that picture, that's a different project altogether than what we're talking about here, correct?
So we could see in our conceptual plans that we would, include some options of what to do with that area of the facility, whether it's a spray pad or whether, that might be converted to parkland, but that's one of the things that we'll look at is what is the entire footprint needed, for the different amenities and the options that we come up with, because you have a lot of area. I mean, 20,000 plus square feet of water is huge. And so it might not be that you need that much area, or you get a lot more grassy area than you have now, or like Bob mentioned, you have that spray pad, that takes up a good portion of the area where the existing deep pool is.
I guess I was kind of referring back to Mrs. Cipriani was saying that an RFP was going to go out for that area. So that would be the filling in and the.
Yes, that area we were pulling in as part of our demolition RFP that's out right now.
Okay, so just the demolition. And yeah, another thing when we're talking about maintenance, I mean, the simpler the structure, the simpler the maintenance and less money. When it comes to that DCNR grant, is there a max on that, Ms. Cipriani?
I think the max will end up being our capacity to match it.
Okay.
And do we know our capacity to match at this point? I can't remember what we have in the budget.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head. That would be a question for Carl.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Bill, I just have one, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the board itself. I truly think that we need to look at from end to end in this project and look at what Mayor Walsh did back in the mid 60s, 64, 65, 66. It was basically the same undertaking. We're taking a pool that was in since the early 1900s and making a huge change. And he had the foresight to do this, him and his administration and council at the time. And we gained 55 years out of that project. I think if we're going to do it, we got to do it the right way. We got to make sure everything is first class that goes in there, and not waste money. Like if we do a Band-Aid approach to it and everything, I truly feel we're going to be spending money time after time again on that complex. But for the future generations to come, if we get 50 more years of enjoyment and entertainment in that park, it's worth every penny of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, obviously this is a challenge, but I think it also presents a really great opportunity for us in the city to invest in, like I said earlier, what I think is one of the greatest assets that we have in Scranton, and it's that park. Bob, I'm up there all the time with my kids walking around, and it's just a huge benefit for the city, for that neighborhood, but really for the whole entire city. So I think if we do this the right way, and if we make a big investment up there, it's going to set the stage not only for that area, but really for other development, whether it's in the park and even in that neighborhood. So obviously, I think we have to be cognizant of our finances of the city. But again, I agree with you, Bob, that we can't continue to put good money after bad and put Band-Aids on it. And I think it's really time to make an investment like Mayor Walsh did so many years ago, and make sure that it's something that we can all be proud of. So, thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, thank you, everyone. We appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again at the end of March.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank you
you
for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great night.
Have a
Stay
good night.
safe, everyone.
Bye-bye. Okay, talking so much about swimming, but we can't, the weather's not, we're not there yet. We got a sneak peek today of what it's gonna be like, I think, this spring and summer. Okay, at this time, I'd like someone to make a motion to accept public comment from the following individuals: Bev DeBarros and Faye Franis.
I'd like to make a motion to accept public comment.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept public comment. Mrs. Reed, would you please read the comments into the record?
Thank you. The first submission is from Bev DeBarros as follows. Dear Council, regarding our city employees who owe back taxes, of course, it will be easy to collect them as their wages from the city can and should be garnished. I doubt that because of the favors of politics, they will be charged interest and fees like everyone else. This will be, in effect, the grace period that is denied to other city residents. Would you follow up and report on this for us? The second submission is provided by Faye Franis as follows. Council, Mr. Gaughan, please allow me to get through to you again. The Zoom call to the public doesn't make it any more susceptible to a hacking any more than what they do now when people Zoom into council meetings during the caucus or even during the regular meeting. This is easily solved prior to the meeting. People who want to Zoom into the meeting to ask questions or comments simply email Council Clerk Lori Reed and say they want to be Zoomed in, excuse me, then council can send only those that want to speak a link to be Zoomed in. However, you allow others that are Zoomed in, whether it be a certain code, number, or link. That was a year ago that people got hacked. It has not happened since. Every week when people Zoom in, it is handled very well, no problems. I do believe the citizens of Scranton should have that same right and accessibility as any other person who gets to speak live at a council meeting. Mr. Gaughan, tonight I would like a response to this, a direct answer. Will you allow the people who want to ask questions of council to be Zoomed in? And if not, why not? You replied previously that people can email council, and we have been doing this all along. That is not an answer. Also, how are we any different than any person you Zoom in now? Explain how Zooming those who are live during meetings any different than those of us who want to speak live. There actually is no difference, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. If you say no, that will only go to show you do not want the people to be able to speak live during a meeting, which is not a good sign at all. I recently heard you mention a number of times how concerned you were, Mr. Gaughan, about not wanting to go against the administrative code when you spoke about the police chief. Well, you are certainly not too concerned about the administrative code when it comes to the handling of the money coming in from the citizens who pay their garbage fee. The city has been using this money to pay other city bills, which has nothing to do with the running of the Department of Public Works. In the city administrative code, it states this money collected from the citizens of Scranton for the garbage fee is only to be used to pay for the pickup of the garbage and all related items pertaining to the DPW, nothing else. The city has been paying other city bills with this money for years. Now I want to know tonight, are you going to stop this practice if you care so much about not going against the administrative code as you say you do? I also like a response to this tonight. Another matter about your 2A classification of the city. It was mentioned that there has been many legislative revisions to allow Scranton to stay 2A. I would like you to provide me with every one of those legislative revisions in writing. To me, the law is the law. You should not be changing the law to help the city keep getting more money in ways they would not be getting if they were not a 2A city. It seems you are constantly following laws you want and ignoring those you don't want. And no, I do not want to do a right to know. You work for us. I would appreciate it if you would get those legislative revisions, and I would gladly pick them up and pay for them. I asked 3 questions tonight. Since you read my letter before the meetings, you have plenty of time to get me replies. Number 1, zooming into meeting. Number 2, administrative code. Why are you using money to pay city bills from garbage fee money when it is only to be used for DPW matters? Are you going to stop this practice? Number 3, will you please get me copies of any and all legislative revisions to keep Scranton a 2A city? And that is all.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed. On the question, anyone on the question? A couple comments. For Mr. Barros, I don't believe that if city employees owe back taxes or refuse fees, that they're charged like everyone else. There was a grace period for the refuse fee that council passed, but that was just to help people out generally due to the pandemic. But we'll follow up on that.
Councilman Gahn, just to add to that too, I know I did bring up when that all hit the paper about, the employees owing about garnishing wages. And I was told that that was not an option. It wasn't a legal option to take.
Okay, great. Thank you. Ms. Francis's questions, we'll just check through these 3. Number 1, zooming into the meeting. My answer to that is no. As I've stated before, the current setup of these meetings is going to continue until we can get back into council chambers, which I'm hopeful we can do within the next few months due to the vaccinations, the mass vaccinations that are going on. And that seems to be improving as every day goes on. We're doing the absolute best that we can to conduct the business of the city. And that's of the utmost importance to me, and I know to my fellow colleagues. We're here to conduct the business of the city. Anyone who has any questions, anyone throughout the city, can email them to our city clerk. We will read them, as we just read Ms. Francis's, into the record, and we will answer them as best we can. If we don't have an answer the night of the meeting, we will get back to them with an answer if we can get one. The other point I want to make on that is we're fulfilling all of our duties under the Sunshine Act, and actually going above and beyond what the Sunshine Act calls for. So the answer to that question is no. The answer to that is not going to change. These meetings are running efficiently. We are allowing for public comment, and that's the way it's going to be until we can get back into council chambers, which I hope is soon. Number 2, on the administrative code, why is the city using money to pay city bills from garbage fee money? This has been something that has come up before. That's actually a function of the administration. And there's also, that question should go to the business administrator and the mayor. And number 2, the trash fee, the whole trash fee issue is currently under litigation. And I think that issue is part of that. So I'm not going to comment on that. And number 3, will I please get copies of any and all legislative revisions to keep Scranton a 2A city? I'm not going to do that either. So the answer to that is no. Those revisions would come from the state. So Ms. Francis can contact her state representative for that information. That wouldn't be housed, I don't think, in our office. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5th order, 5A motion.
Councilman Schuster, any motions or comments tonight?
I do have some comments. I'm going to make them on the question though in 5th order.
Thank you. Councilman McAndrew, any motions or comments?
I do. So I've been bringing up the situation over here on Main Avenue and West Side. So we all got an email, and it addressed a piece of it. There's 2 pieces that I think we need to circle around and maybe go back. So, and I want to thank Mrs. Cipriani for, updating us. And she's, for the most part, it says vehicles no longer block an alley at 1218 Main Street. And that's the luxury auto. But the issue with the service garage was a little confusion. So the alley we're referring to is the alley next to the service garage with no name, which is 1350. All right, that's where there's more problems. So there's 2 pieces here. The car dealership, which, like I said, there's 100 cars and there should be 5. So my question still lies: where is and two entities violating just parking. I'm not even saying off-street parking. That's a problem. The residents don't own the parking spots. But the amount of cars that are at these two businesses is beyond ridiculous. Like, I've never seen anything like it. So I think, you know, maybe I wasn't clear enough. I'm trying to be clear now that the issues have not been resolved or addressed. Maybe they're allowed that many cars. I just need to know that. And are these cars that are overflowing in front of the neighbors' houses with all these different plates from all over the country? They're not residents there, but these two places that are by the same owner are parking at the garage in the neighborhoods and then parking off the car lot. Between the two, there's probably 200 cars. So maybe Mrs. Reed, if you can just, you know, maybe redirect my question, clarify if you'd like. I'll try to explain it better in email to you tomorrow so you can forward it on. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McAndrew. Councilman Donahue, any motions or comments?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. I have a few. I mentioned this in third order. I'm just going to mention it again. Mrs. Reed, if you can find out why we're, you know, what the deal is in the law department with overtime. Again, it just boggles my mind that for some reason this administration feels that even though the line item has a big fat zero in it, that they can continue to spend overtime in the law department. Who is getting overtime in the law department? As I said in third order, I went from 2015 to 2019. No money budgeted for overtime in the law department, no money spent. So why all of a sudden are we spending overtime in the law department? Same thing with DPW administration. There's money budgeted. There's money, we're over budget by $200. As I mentioned earlier, I'm assuming that's because of the snowstorm, but I think we have to ask the question as to why all of a sudden supervisors are, I'm assuming it's supervisors, eligible for or getting overtime. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I look back at the previous budgets from 2015 to 2019. There's never any money, number one, budgeted, and for the most part, never any money spent. So I'd just like to know if there's a new policy. If there is, what is it? Can we be provided with it? And what has changed from the last 5 or so years when we weren't spending any money there? Number two, we received a document that will be in third order next week. I had asked for quite some time now, this spans 2 administrations, just for an update on all of the Act 47 recommendations that are located in our recovery plan. I've been looking for an update on this, like I said, for at least 4 or 5 years, and I could never get one for whatever reason. I want to thank the administration and Carl Dealey. They put together a very helpful document that clearly shows where we've made progress and what is ongoing in terms of the recommendations. And there's a lot of them. And as I mentioned before, some of them I think are crucial to achieve before we exit Act 47. So that document will be coming next, or it'll be in third order next week for anyone who's interested. And I know there have been some citizens in the past who have asked for that as well. We met again on 3rd Avenue, the issue out on 3rd Avenue with the Councilman Donahue, and I had met with members of the administration. So there are some discussions going on there about the potential to somewhat alleviate that issue. So hopefully within the next few weeks, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, there'll be more information coming on that, hopefully in terms of legislation. I received, and I think I mentioned this last week, an email from a gentleman on the top of Ferdinand Street. He sent me pictures and videos of the fact that there are people up at the top of Ferdinand Street in North Scranton that have lost a day or 2 of work, actually more than that, because there's runoff from the top of Ferdinand Street and it literally encases the street in ice. I reached out to the DPW director, Mr. Preambo. He reached out to this gentleman, and they're going to try to take care of that issue, but it is still ongoing, and it's a real shame because it's affecting a lot of people up there. So hopefully that gets taken care of as soon as possible. I also wanted to just touch on the caucus that we had tonight, first with Tom McLean. I want to thank Tom McLean for coming in. He does a really wonderful job for the city of Scranton in terms of our park system. I've said this many times here before, our parks in Scranton are our biggest assets. I live across the street from one, and the fact that we're taking on this comprehensive park analysis is a huge benefit to the city. And it shows foresight and forward thinking, because as Mr. McLean said, we'll be able to pull the park study off the shelf and go right into the grant process, rather than going through the motions that could take potentially months. There are several parks throughout the city, one of them being Oakmont, and I've met with the neighbors up in that area at the park previously, that needs a lot of TLC. So I'm hopeful that this comprehensive study is going to set us on track to, over a period of time, repairing and replacing some of the things in these parks, making them the center point and the centerpiece for these neighborhoods throughout our city, which I think is so important. So again, I want to thank Mr. McLean and his company for their work on that, and I'm looking forward to the final study. The second thing I wanted to touch on is the caucus that we had with representatives from MKSD and Eileen Cipriani, our OECD director, and who else was there? Now I'm drawing a blank. Bob Gattens, the Recreation Authority chairman, and Paul Kelly, the solicitor. There's an old saying that the time to fix the roof is when the sun is shining. I think that's applicable in this case. I'm a little disappointed that the mayor and her administration knew that, you know, the pool was an issue way back last year. I don't think you can use the pandemic as an excuse. Last year would have been the perfect opportunity to at least start the ball rolling on this whole process. There was meetings. I was in the pool in the early summer and saw how bad it was. I mentioned it at council meetings. I met with the mayor and the business administrator about it. And for some reason, it took until late last year when we had to pass emergency legislation to get the study rolling. And now we're up against a really tight timeline. So again, I'm just disappointed. As Mr. Gatton said, I do think, we have to be honest, I do think that the city dropped the ball on this. In saying that, I do think that there is a huge opportunity here. We're looking at a major challenge with all the issues that were outlined in this report, but I do think there is a major opportunity. Mr. Gattens mentioned Mayor Walsh from so many years ago that was kind of a pioneer in many respects in some of the things that he did. And he made an investment in the park. He made investments in other parts of the city. Sometimes they were controversial and people didn't like them, but we can see the fruits of that decades later on what he was able to do. So I think with the pool complex, it's an opportunity for us to make an investment in an asset that we have. And I think we need to do it the right way. I don't think we continue to put Band-Aids on the pool, but I do think that we need to make sure that it's done and it's done as quickly as possible. I'm looking forward to the end of the month when we'll receive more concrete figures on what the price tag is, but based on the assessment, and I think the cost was 1.6 million just to fix what's there. And they're talking about potentially completely replacing the pool if you want to do it the right way. I think it's probably going to be much more than that based on what they said tonight. I'm a little concerned about where we're going to get the funding for a matching to match the grant, the DCNR grant. As I said to Mrs. Cipriani, I don't think we should put all of our eggs in one basket waiting for a grant. We want to make sure this pool is open as soon as possible. I'm deeply disappointed that from what they said, it can't be open this summer. I think there was maybe the potential it could have been if we moved quicker when we knew this was an issue last year. But at this point, that's neither here nor there. I'm also concerned about, we're always concerned about the gorge. The one thing I thought about today when I was reading the report was, if this pool is not open, will that push more people up to the gorge? I know that they took some steps last year to put security cameras up there. Hopefully that continues to help the situation, but I think that's a concern. The other concern I have is with that, the pool, with the deep pool without a slide. Every day that goes not being filled in, I think exposes young people that are up there, anyone who's up there, that anybody hops that fence and falls in, it's a 13 or 14 foot drop. So I'm looking forward to that being filled in and taken care of, as Mrs. Cipriani mentioned. As I mentioned during the caucus, I think we need to look at not just the grants. I think we need to look at potential borrowing. whether there's something that we can do with the Recreation Authority to go out and to potentially borrow these funds to fast track this project. Looking maybe at the capital budget and reallocating funds there, if that's a possibility. Or one of the ideas I had earlier today was potentially using some proceeds from the refinancing, if that's a possibility, adding a capital component to the refinancing. The interest rates, as everybody knows, are really low right now. So if you can refinance and get a rate that's comparable, it might be better to do that than to borrow new money. So again, I think challenge, disappointment, but chance for an opportunity here to make a huge difference there, to do it the right way. And then, 40 to 50 years from now, we'll still have a pool that's operational and that's not cracking and leaking every year. So I'm looking forward to continued conversations and discussions with the administration. And that's all I have. Mrs. Reed?
Thank you. 5B, for introduction and ordinance, amending file of the council number 8, 1987, an ordinance entitled, amending file of the council number 87, 1976, entitled, an ordinance entitled, providing for the levy and collection of a license for all performers, entertainers, sporting teams, musical groups, bands, theatrical cast, dancing groups, recital groups, paid lecturers and speakers by increasing fees to decrease the fees due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
I'm just like to say that I'm glad to see there's some relief. I know we talked about this for a few weeks, and Billy, you or Mr. Gahn, you brought it up initially, but I'm glad that, we came to a consensus here with the city that it's fair, to reduce these fees. And I'm glad and happy to vote on this all the way through.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? I agree, Mark. This was an idea that I had after speaking to a local business owner that's actually in my neighborhood who mentioned it to me. And I think it makes it more affordable, more economical, especially with the pandemic and the fact that our small business owners are facing an uphill battle, and many of them are not able to have entertainment like they usually would, and that's where they make some of their money. So hopefully this it's not going to solve everything, but hopefully it allows them to bear the burden a little bit more. Anyone else? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C, for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the council number 70, 2016, an ordinance authorizing the creation of an event license to alleviate the direct expense to peddlers and to allow a more efficient operation of various events in the city, and imposing an event license fee schedule to decrease the fees due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D, for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the council number 33, 2013, an ordinance amending sections 340-1, 340-8, 340-9, and 340-13A of the Code of the City of Scranton governing peddling and soliciting within the City of Scranton by further amending the Administrative Code, Section 340-13A, to decrease the fee by 20% due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E, for introduction, a resolution approving a sponsorship agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for the Meadowbrook Flood Protection Project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second,
On the question?
on the question, so I just wanted to, while this is in fifth order, I wanted to get the conversation started. I'm very glad to hear that this project is happening. It's been a very long time. And with that said, this project here it's going to take several years. And in the time that it's going to take, I think some of the neighbors there are looking for some kind of temporary fix for their backyards. So I'd like to ask Mrs. Reed and the council for support on this, but maybe we'll get a letter sent over to the administration about finding some kind of temporary fix as the spring and summer months are coming for these neighbors, whether it be bringing in some dirt or planting some grass, something like that to alleviate maybe the eyesore in their yards.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? Just two things. First of all, this is a final fix to this issue that has been plaguing this area of the city for decades. We need to vote on this agreement to lay out the responsibilities for both the city and DEP. One of the city's responsibilities, and we'll hear from Don King and Joe O'Brien next week, would be to take the right-of-ways, negotiate them, get clear title to the land, things like that. So there's a lot that goes into this project even before a shovel can hit the ground. But it's going to be a longer process than I know most people would like. But this is the first step to make sure that this is fixed and fixed for good. So I'm looking forward to voting on this and putting this issue to bed eventually once and for all, and helping the neighbors out there with the unbelievable situations that they've had to go through. I've talked to many of them, Al Young and his wife. It's a shame what's happened, but this is the ultimate fix. Anyone else? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5F, for introduction of resolution accepting a donation presented to the City of Scranton Fire Department from the Clifford Township Volunteer Fire Company in the amount of $100 in memory of Scranton firefighter Stephen Sunday.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5F be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second,
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5G, for introduction of resolution accepting a donation presented to the City of Scranton Fire Department from Tom Hesser Chevrolet BMW in the amount of $1,514.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
second,
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5H, for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract for the rebid simulator area improvement project between the City of Scranton and Sean Byrne Construction for general contracting work.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5G be introduced into its proper, or 5H be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
second,
On the question? On the question, we're going to insert next week, or Lori will send out the legislative cover sheet was mistakenly excluded from this piece of legislation. So that does just give an overview of what this project entails. And then next week, members, representatives of the administration are going to come to caucus and do a run through of this whole project at the Serenity Center. But the long and short of it is that they're going to install a public safety simulator that simulates the use of force, crisis management, de-escalation, and tactical judgment training. So this contract covers the construction and renovation of the space that's going to house the training simulator. And I think the ultimate goal is to extend this extend this to other communities, other police departments around our area so that they can use it, and it could be a revenue generator eventually. So we'll get more information about that next week. Anyone else on the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5I for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract for the rebid simulator area improvement project between the city of Scranton and Lieber Electric Incorporated for the electrical work.
This time I'll entertain a motion that item 5I be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the council number 54, 2021, an ordinance establishing a no parking zone along the easterly side of Wyoming Avenue from segment 0000 offset 1292 to segment 0020 offset 1417 to allow for safe site distances for a parking lot proposed by Miller Lofts located at 620 Wyoming Avenue.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, file of the council number 55, 2021, an ordinance establishing a no parking zone along the westerly side of the 800 block of Wyoming Avenue from New Street South to West Gibson Street, and placement of the following signs: 4 R8-3 no parking symbol signs, 12 by 12, 3 R-301 no parking arrow plaque, and 1 R-301 no parking left arrow plaque.
I make a motion to correct an error as found in item 6B. The no parking zone along the 800 block of Wyoming Avenue references, quote, West Gibson Street. However, the correct location is, quote, East Gibson Street. There are 4 references to West as follows in the summary title, 2 in the second whereas clause, 3 in the third whereas clause, and 4 in the now therefore clause that should be amended to reflect, quote, East.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to correct the directional location from west to east as incorrectly cited in item 6B. On the question? I'm sure all the neighbors on West Gibson Street are thrilled with the correction here. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B as amended pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Excuse me, Councilman Gahn, I lost my place. Seventh order. 7A for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption. File of the council number 50, 2021, amending section 709G of the City of Scranton zoning ordinance, prohibiting signs or displays that include words or images that are obscene, pornographic, or that an average reasonable person would find highly offensive to public decency.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, Kevin, can you just give a little final review of the change? We talked about the open language was what caused the issue with this ordinance, but we still have the ability to enforce anything obscene, correct?
That's correct. The only thing we're removing is the subjective language that states or that an average reasonable person would find highly offensive to public decency. We still have available the right to prohibit pornographic or other highly explicit signage. So that's the only thing that's being removed. The remaining sections, remaining portions of section 609 and 610 remain in place.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else on the question?
Yes, on the question. It feels like I've been voting on this for 2 months. But guess what? The more people the longer we take for the final vote, the more people I hear that have a problem with this. And I understand, like I said, first of all, I'm all for free speech and self-expression. All right. But the problem I have with this is we're changing language for this ordinance. We're changing language because of language and now to allow language. All right. I just still can't wrap my head around this because, and I understand we tried to enforce this. So we tried to enforce it and we were threatened a lawsuit. So we just say, let's change the language. So that's the problem I have. We got to fight once in a while. And I have another. So like I said, I've talked to people in the community and they still have a problem with that. The Hispanic community over there. I mean, I just had a grandson, and what if I take a walk over in Southside 2 years from now and I'm walking down past this restaurant and at that inquisitive age, my grandson says, what does that mean? What does that word mean? Do I tell him or not tell him? It means the F word. It's clearly been explained to me by everybody, the Hispanic community. And I understand that, you know, the owner says it's an inside joke with who? It is his community. Who is the joke on? Is the joke on the Southside residents? Is the joke on me? Or is the joke on all of you? So, like I said, my vote is one of principle. I think allowing this moving forward, we open a can of worms, a number 10 can of worms. That signs, we're going to have issues with signs down the road. So for that, like I've stated for a while now, I'm a no. Thank you.
I'm going to vote for this because I understand what Councilman McAndrew is saying, but my concern is that the joke is going to be on all of us if we all voted against this, because the only people who will be laughing all the way to the bank would be the lawyers from the ACLU and other attorneys who would make out on this, just like the case that went, I think it was Colts was involved in some sort of case and they lost. And based on the opinion that was provided by Solicitor O'Brien and confirmed by Solicitor Hayes, if we were all to vote against this, we would most likely lose in court and we would owe probably a substantial amount of money. So that's my concern. I'm voting for it. The law, I think, is clear on it. And if we don't change it, you know, we're up a creek without a paddle. So,
Mr. President, I just want to provide clarification. We will still have on the books an ordinance which reads as follows: the following signs are prohibited in all zoning districts. Signs or displays that include words or images that are obscene or pornographic. So we're not removing that language. The only thing we're removing is that language that would permit us to make subjective determinations of what's offensive, which I have reviewed and would be, whether we like it or not, the appellate courts of the country, or of several different circuits, have determined that type of a restriction is a violation of the First Amendment.
So it's safe to say that the city would be exposed here, and we most likely would end up we'd be on the wrong side of the issue.
That's correct. With that language, if we were trying to, right or wrong, if we tried to force that language, I think it would be overturned, and like you said earlier, to the benefit of the civil rights lawyer who brought the claim.
Kevin, just a quick follow-up question on that. Is there a strict definition of what's considered obscene?
Let me just hold on a second here. Now, let me see what's here.
You're not pulling up any pictures or anything, right? You're just looking at the definition. Okay. The Zoom meeting can get really interesting. I want to make sure we adjourn soon.
Hold on one second here. I don't think we have I don't believe the code has a specific definition of obscene, but they have a definition of obscene material. So, I just pull it up here. Hold on one second. There's a definition provided of obscene materials that probably would be used for purposes of applying it to the statute.
Okay.
Anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
No.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gahn.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for Adoption, Resolution number 133, 2021, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the city of Scranton to adopt the Citizens Participation Plan for the Office of Economic and Community Development.
What is the recommendation of the chairperson for the Committee on Community Development?
As the temporary chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuster,
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew,
Yes.
Mr. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Gahn.
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, Resolution number 134, 2021, appointment of Leonard Nemeka, 1130 Philo Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18508, to the position of Superintendent of Police for the City of Scranton, effective February 17, 2021.
As chairperson for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I'm going to make a motion at this time to table item 7C.
Second.
On the question? On the question, I'm making this motion to table for a few reasons. Number one, this will be in third order next week for the public to take a look at, but the mayor did respond to our letter last week that stated our basic concern, which was that the administrative code states very clearly that when you make you appoint them in an acting capacity, you have 35 days to either send that legislation to council so we could officially accept that appointment and make them permanent, or you have to move on to somebody else. And there's other language in there as well that we cited in our letter. So we had a few questions for Mayor Cognetti on this. And just for the record, we've been asking these questions for a while now, and we could never get an answer. So the mayor sent us a response and didn't really, in my opinion, answer any of our concerns or any of our questions, but talked about turmoil in the country last summer and other things that really had nothing to do with, in my opinion, what we were asking, which is very simply regarding the administrative code. So until we get a better explanation, I can in good conscience move forward on this. As Councilman McAndrew and others stated last week, this has nothing to do with Chief Nemeka. I'd be more than happy to approve this with no issues, but we need to make sure that we're following the rules here. The mayor can't just make up her own rules as she goes along. The code clearly states 35 days, and whether or not the mayor likes that is neither here nor there. I mean, it doesn't matter if I like it. It's 35 days. That's what every other mayor and every other administration has had to go by since the administrative code and that section was put into place. So I'm still unclear where we're coming up or where they're coming up with the term interim. I'm still unclear on why it took that long. And I don't want to vote in the affirmative and expose ourselves if this is not the legally correct thing to do. So that's why I'm making the motion to table. Anyone else on the question?
I would just like to add to that former Chief Graziano resigned about 7 months ago, I think, to the date. I think it was around the middle of August. So I understand that, 35 days might not be enough, but there was also an additional 30 days from the time that the chief announced his resignation until, that resignation took into effect. So that essentially becomes 65 days. And then also on that too is there's, the weird part about the CBA with the police department is it clearly states in the CBA that the chief has to come from the bargaining unit. So it's not like, you have to go out and do this national search, your pool is a little lower. So I would just like to make those 2 points too.
Anyone else on the question?
Yeah, I just have one quick thing. So everybody knows where I'm at with this, and it's nothing personal, like I said. But now that even brings it more than 150 days. It's almost a school year, 180. But I was very skeptical from the beginning when I saw interim instead of acting. I brought it up a couple times. No one seems to have the answer. I think it's tactical because that looks like it's part of the defense now going past 35. So I'd like clarity on that once and for all. What do these two words mean? They mean the same to me. Also, now I heard something else brought to my attention. What's the 90-day rule? Okay, we know the 35-day rule. That's cut and dry. 35 days you have to appoint. But what's the 90-day rule for a police officer who's in a position, or say acting or whatever, that it automatically becomes theirs, that position? Solicitor Hayes, could you just look at that for me?
Sure.
I don't, nothing in front of me. It was something that was brought to my attention, but supposedly within the police union, there's a 90-day rule. All right, could you explore that
Sure.
before we vote on this for final passage or whatever we're doing with it? Maybe this is something we need to look at also. Thank you.
Okay.
And again, I want to make the point too that I don't think council's trying to be difficult here. Usually these appointments are very routine, and we usually approve when we see somebody's resume and we give our approval. But it raises a red flag with me when you ask the question and they just kind of blow you off and don't give you an answer. I've been down that road before, and I've asked it. I've raised it with the mayor. We raised it with her publicly in a caucus, and we're told it's a personnel issue, which it's an administrative code issue. It's not a personnel issue. So again, I just want to make sure we're following the rules. That's all. Anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I'd like to say is I think each one of us here has said, this is a process issue. Asked the question, we didn't get any answers, and it's something we brought up for a long time now. So nothing to do with the individual that this is involving, but everything to do with process.
Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion to table agenda item 7C signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and agenda item 7C is tabled.
Eighth order, old business. Resolution number 120, 2021, accepting the recommendation of the Historical Architecture Review Board and denying the certificate of appropriateness for L.R. Costanzo Company Incorporated, 123 North Main Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18504, for the following upgrades to site lighting throughout the property at PNC Bank, 201 Penn Avenue, Scranton, PA, 18503.
This piece of legislation is currently tabled, as Mrs. Reed mentioned. Next week, March 16th, there's going to be a public hearing held at 5:45 p.m. on this piece of legislation. Next week, I'll also entertain a motion to place it in seventh order for a final vote. If anyone wishes to speak on this resolution or provide comment for the public hearing, you may do so by emailing lreed@scrantonpa.gov or by U.S. mail at Scranton Municipal Building, 340 North Washington Avenue, Scranton, PA 18503. Attention City Clerk's Office by 3 p.m. next Tuesday, March 16th. If there's no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
This meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone. See you next.